It's already started.
It's already
So be careful.
started.
Be careful what you say. Yeah. What is this? What is this here? Leave meeting. This meeting is being live streamed. Okay. Cool. Oh, I didn't sign. What the hell?
Well, that's not better either.
What?
I'm just trying to adjust my
Take your
camera
time.
angle.
Take your time.
That's whatever. There's people don't need to
Nice
see that.
cabinets.
Oh, it's my design studio.
Very nice. Oh, this your design studio. Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm
Wow.
still at work.
Yeah, let me see if it's on. Boom. Yeah.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
Yeah, let me see if it's on. All right. Boom. Yeah. All right. Okay. So we are live on YouTube and yeah, on Facebook.
It's already
So be careful.
started.
Be careful what you say. All right. Okay. So you're at work in the middle of the apocalypse.
Always.
Do we have a choice?
Exactly. Life continues.
And doesn't it? These 3D things.
Okay, I think I'm good. I'm just checking for sound and all that. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you fine. Flicks Love says, "Good night, Dragon Sister in the house. Woo hoo." Adam Marquez says, "Hi there, dears." Dorian says, "Some of us are on fixed incomes." Dorian, I got your message and I'm contemplating it. Very profound. She's my friend from Salt Lake City, her and her husband. Julie Devereaux's in the house. Willow. Um, yeah, we're just having an impromptu Soul Speaks 5D. Just checking in. So what do you think?
You want to lead off?
Uh no, I mean I don't know. Wow, I don't know. Eclipse corridor, everything, I don't know. To me, I felt like since the 11th of November, no, the 9th of November, when I reconnected with Morgan, like everything was that whole feeling of these things are behind us. But these things have kept playing out. And after this eclipse, it was like, I don't know. I've had let's see, if I go back about 2 weeks, I had about in 7 days, I had 6 days where I woke up and I literally couldn't stand up for like 15 minutes. Didn't happen again until this morning. And I feel like I'm on the other side of something. It's really weird. It really is. Oh, like the other night, okay, when I talked to you, I had come out of a session with, oh, we put it out, this incredible session with Morgan and two other ladies. And
Okay.
then I went and talked to you, and I kept hearing this, like it was just all this energy. I understand you woke up the next day and you couldn't, like you'd run a marathon or been beat up or something. And so after that, I laid on the bed and God, I hope I can remember all this. My eyes were open and all of these beings appeared in the room, translucent, you know, and they were all men, and they're all men I knew. Like I'm talking like over thousands of lives or whatever, and they all had the same look on their face, which was kind of like, I was telling Morgan, have you ever, do you ever read Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of the Winnie the Pooh series, he has to tell all of his stuffed animals, I'm going to school now, so I won't be able to spend much time with you. And you find out that the whole time that's been his fantasy world, with all the stuffed animals. So it was
Yeah.
kind of like that. It was like me saying, it was weird. And I wouldn't say it was strictly a masculine thing. It was just like, what's going on, all this stuff that was going on. And so from there was like this, I looked up and there was like this vortex just slightly above my head to the right. And, and this face appeared, like this extraterrestrial kind of face looking thing. I don't know. It was just very high, frequency, but I was getting it. But the humans just like, okay, fuck it, whatever. But I don't know. I mean, January, February, they were like almost like a grind, I guess. I don't mean it like in a bad way, but it was just like churning it out. March was just, and then the my corridor, the Eclipse corridor, uh, and now April. I don't know. I've had, I would say, high levels of abundance, um, in an amazing way, in many different ways, and I'm about to walk into the most in-depth family situation that could happen. Like I talked to my brother for the first time in 8 years today. I saw
Oh
my
wow.
mom after 6 years. Yeah, and we're going to see
Yeah.
my dad, who's now in a senior citizen's place. Aunts and uncles, cousins, the whole 9 yards. All the dichotomies. All the dynamics, really. Of everything playing out. And it's like I'm watching it in this family scene, and it's been building and building and building, and it's following the collective. And it's weird. And those words that you wrote about your father, to me, speaks to it. Like I totally resonated with it. Something. What do you know? What you wrote? What was it? What did
Uh,
it say?
oh, uh, so my, I think you need to kind of give context to it. So there's, okay, let's backtrack. Let's
Okay.
backtrack a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
we'll pause your story and then I'll just quickly share my side and then we'll reconvene because then it'll make a little bit more sense on it. So for
Hmm.
myself, I would, I am paralleling you in my own reality for sure in terms of the energetics. And a lot of people that follow you kind of know that we are personal friends. We're not just like, hey, Soulology buddies, and we chat a lot. We actually are personal friends. So there's a lot of personal backgrounds where we know where the parallelisms come from. And the synchronicities are off the chart between everything that's happening in our personal lives, right? So one of the things that has happened is definitely at the beginning of January. For the dragons for myself have been in dormancy. I would say I haven't had a lot of experience with it to the point where I felt like my maybe they've forsaken me because they basically have left my reality since COVID started.
I entitled this episode "Hung Nguyen Dragon Fever."
Did you? Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
This was so impromptu.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where I let it go, and they came back fast, hard, intense, and I'm still working through all of that. I'm not
When
really
was when
understanding.
was this? What's the timeline? When was this?
Timeline would be, I would say January 11th for me.
Okay. Okay. I remember that day. I remember that
Yeah,
day very well. Yeah. Something
yeah.
happened on that day. I remember.
So January 11th, it came in really intense. And so what has happened is I've been learning how to do AI in my own business side. So I'm as an interior designer, I'm integrating AI into it. And one of the programs in between me trying to keep the creativity going, I would get bored of kitchens, bathrooms. And then I was like, yeah, I wonder if I can play with dragons. So if you look at my AI work, it's so bipolar because you'll see a whole bunch of like high level interiors, and then you'll just see like whole bunch of dragons, and then you'll see like bathrooms, and then you'll see it's the most schizophrenic, like basically
Only
generation.
when we see a dragon on the crown.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it just keeps going, and they have been, and that's where I feel the formality of yourself, Morgan, and myself came in was during the AI generation. So I'm not sure what brought me into AI because it's one of those topics that's quite controversial even in the 3D world. It's a controversial topic. A lot of people can go, you either, there is so much hot topics around AI. In the spiritual world, I feel like AI is like at the brink of breaking reality and also breaking spirituality. Like it's the breaker of realities. And I'm not sure if we are actually prepared for that. But for whatever reason, I had a need to learn how to do it. So I took coursework on it, spent a month learning it on the professional side. And then it accidentally intersected, and nothing's an accident. I say, use that term loosely, accidentally intersected in my spiritual world where the dragons were coming through, and they were coming through quite fiercely, where the point where I would go through it and not realize what I'm doing. I wake up the next morning and I would, boot up the laptop again, start working on projects. And then all of a sudden there's like all of these images that have came through during the creation stage. I don't even recognize, like no recollection of some of them. And it's one, and I don't do drugs. So it's one of those things where it's just like, the fuck? I'm staring at the screen like this and I'm like,
That's the human. That's
yes.
when the humans in the dominant.
Yeah, so you're just staring at it, and I have no recollection of some of these dragons. And the place I'm creating it from is actually out of a need to physicalize the spiritual world. And I think that technology right now, something happened in that moment where they were coming through quite fast and furious. So going back to January 11th, they have accompanied me in full force on a spiritual pilgrimage, which I'm not going to go into details quite yet about, but you and Morgan know the backstory of it. It is the most fantastical story that cannot be made up, but it sounds like it's totally made up. But I have proof that it's not made up because there's lots of proof along the line that I have documented. And one day I will tell that story just to share the magic that people have been, your heartstrings have been hoping for when life on this physicality becomes a little bit too dull for you. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Not to be a tease or anything at the apex of everything, but I'm going to leave it at that because the other thing about
did you believe that what you experienced was possible? I mean, honestly, like, were you that much of a cynic? I don't mean that in a bad way, but you mean like, were you that?
I am a cautious optimist. I think
Right.
the biggest thing that a lot of people are very curious about me, whether if I'm working as human hung or higher self hung, is the fact that I carry a healthy optimism,
Right.
but it is quite grounded in realism of this reality, right? So I'm definitely one of those players of this creation world where I'm a optimistic, cautious realist.
Yeah.
Can you string those three adjectives together and get like continuity? I don't know. But it's one of those things where it's just like in that moment of that spiritual pilgrimage, I was proven without a doubt the spiritual world that is intersecting ours is absolutely possible. I'm not gatekeeping that information right now. What I am doing is inspiring hope. And when that story unfolds naturally on its own, because there's a key narrative, there's a key character in that story, and it needs to manifest around him first before I can tell it, because it's not really my story. My story is more of a side quest of delivering that narrative. The actual hero of the story still needs to walk through that fire. So I'll just leave it at that. But since then, the dragons have been coming through, and then this tool that I'm using to basically talk about the intersectionality of it. I don't know why, but it also fully, not to use the eclipse, but fully has eclipsed yours and Morgan's and I'm not entirely sure why either.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where now I'm creating all of these dragons and it can't just live up on my laptop. It literally is like when I approach my laptop, there's voices that come out of it.
They come out of your laptop or in your head?
Yes, without like condemning me to like a psychiatric ward. It really is. Like I'll approach the laptop the night before I'm working on projects, going in between interior design and also in just dragon creations that pop out. And then in the morning, I get like this just like intense like whispering, I want to be known. I want to be known. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Right? So you flip it open.
I'm glad you talk to the universe the same way I do.
And you look at it and you're just like, what? And you're like, okay, fine, I will post about you then, dragon, right? And then there will be short little blips about it. So I've been posting on my flight page, so it's spelled FLYTE if you want to check it out. And it's one of those things that I never mention that page. That page is just purely for me as a digital diary, just letting basically of the moments that come through on the spiritual side of me. But now it's like the dragons have really wanted to be known, so I've kind of introduced them. So going back to it, some of the dragons I have met, I know they have a human associated to it. Not saying that it's their human. I'm not saying the human owns this dragon pet. It's not that, but the context of that dragon showing up is usually comes in the form of a relationship I personally know. So for example, I've had introductions to my son's dragon when he was born. I have been introduced to my niece's dragon when she was born. I've been introduced to my dad's dragon, not aware it's my dad's dragon until years later. So what you're referencing is the last post on the flight page where I talk about my dad's initiation into the dragon energies, not into the not to the dragon realm. He's always been immersed in that
Right.
realm, but
Right.
initiation by fire of the dragon energies, which is a very high level of creation. And I've told my dad's story since I was in my 20s. Like, dude, I'm 46, okay? I've been telling this story for 2.5 decades. You'd think I would be bored of it. But for whatever reason, that post is
You're a conscious
so,
ADHD.
yeah, that post that came out was not of the same voice that I have been telling my dad's story in.
Right.
Somewhere along the line, there was a huge shift, and I had an aha moment that my dad's story, and this is why I think that line resonated with you so much, is I'm introducing my dad's dragon, and I said, this is a story about a young man who loved more than he feared.
Right.
And I've never told my dad's story, and I'm a storyteller. I've never told it in that voice from that perspective.
Yeah, that was striking. It was
And
striking.
so that came out with my dad's dragon. So not only are the dragon experiences coming through graphically and manifesting in form where people are reacting to some of the dragons, like some of the, if you go through some of the photos, that artwork that I post, people mention that they're in tears and they don't know why, right? So it's one of those things where it's just like when you are so familiar with the frequency and the energy of some form that you can't hold and touch in this world. And you see that form in an art form, whether it be singing, music, or AI art, for example, you really open up this other realm of you where you were a creator at that level, where you met these beings or these energy forms, and it brings a lot to it. Even in that AI generation of my dad's dragon, what came clear through me on that one was the fact that he was only granted the access to
Right.
dragon energy not out of fear. As soon as you are in fear, you are basically cock blocked for
You're
like
toast. You're
less
toast.
from
No.
accessing it, right?
If you
So
get cocky or you get fearful.
yeah, it's you're not going to access it. It's
Yeah.
done. That level of creation is not accessible to you anymore. And then the other thing that was really interesting about that post is how the dragons talk about traumatic events. So with dragon creation, it comes across as very destructive according to our human set of parameters. But they don't speak of that. They speak of the period before the event and then the period after, and that's the only referencing point of those 3 points of creation. Yet when they create, they actually do not reference the past at all.
That's right.
Do you know how mind-blowing that was when I wrote that post and I just sat back? It was one of those things where that you're in a trance, you write it, you put it out, and then in the morning you sit back on it and you're like, wow, that's really brilliant.
That was the second thing that stood out for me, the spontaneity of it. Because to me, it's like, we talk about, oh, you got to be present, but that's happening. And it's not just being present, but it's creating from that present, just like you're talking about. You start playing with this AI and you're loose, you're open, you're present, whatever, and all of a sudden this other thing comes in and you got this whole other multi-dimensional channel coming in. And the thing about your father, I totally relate to as well. And you said it. I was going to say it, but you already said it. So what you were saying is, and this is how I feel in my own life. It has nothing to do with anyone else, but it's very similar. So you have this connection to this other place of you, this powerful other place of you. And you get an opportunity to implement it or embody it or experience it or whatever you want to, however you want to put it, in human form, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like that whole thing about the other side, right? And at some point, not when it happens, because when it's happening, you're like going, "Holy fuck, I'm not going to make it," or whatever. But then at some point, and I think the reason that, or one of the reasons that it resonates with me is because I feel like, yes, many of us individually are seeing this, experiencing this same type of pattern, but collectively, there's a bigger and bigger group. We're looking back and going, you know what? We're more than light workers. We're more than star seeds. We're more than this story. This is involving generations, and it's all us. I mean, it's profound. And then the way things happen, like I can't even tell you because I sent you an email message. So, and then from that point, another set of things started. The next thing I know, I'm talking to you on the phone after this incredible session, and it just kept going. And I just want to say one other thing. Right before that message I sent you, I was presented with something, and I shit you not, 13 dragons were like as soon as it came in, they just went, don't go there. And they were just like all right there. And I know because I've only seen it 12, like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Okay. And one set was yours, by the way. The Mulberry Mountains when they left you. But it was in the 13th one, I swear to you, was like the one that you did, like the first AI things that you did, the very early ones
Yeah.
of more. Okay, where the guy's there smoking the cigarette and the dragon's face is right next to him, like they're sitting down on a rock. I swear to God, it looked like that dragon. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's in, so that has been quite intense happening, kind of like running in the background of my world here. And I know it's been, I, okay, so let's go back to like the dumpster fire. That's the current energetic climate. So let's go back to that for a second.
Wait, what does
So,
that mean? The
well,
dumpster fire.
that's what
You mean
this,
the identities, the bullshit,
I would say, you know what, if we were being perfectly honest, the thing about the spiritual community that is, it has outgrown its shell, right? If we use the
yeah,
lobster,
yeah, I'm with you. I get what you're saying now.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
keep
if we
going.
use
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
lobster,
Yeah,
we use the lobster analogy where we have since you have founded Soulology, which is what, 12 years ago?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So about
yeah.
12 years ago, the collective has gone through like this group of expansion. And if we took the microcosm of Soulology, we have gone through a group of expansion as well. And we've got to the point where we have to make some hard choices, right, as a group. And it boils down to your individual as well. So I think I've been calling it affectionately the dumpster fire of Soulology. And and it's tongue in cheek, and it's not because I
No,
don't
I
believe.
get, I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
it's not
Totally.
because I don't believe in this community, but this community, we need a bigger playground to create on. And also, there's like a lot of spam that's happening on the feed
Oh
right
my
now.
God, the spam is, I'm dealing with it right now as I'm talking to you. I'm trying to get this bitch off of here.
So it's one of those things where it's like the so what happens when you use that analogy of a lobster where you have outgrown your shell? You either have to bust open the shell, right? So you can get to the next level expansion and continue growing, or you acknowledge that the limitation of the shell is your plateau and you're at peace with it. You have to be
Yeah.
comfortable with being uncomfortable
The
in that
road of
shell.
faith, the road of fate that you said.
So it's,
The
and
fated.
that's, yeah, so it's one of those things where it's just like, where are we at? A lot of people are uncomfortable in this comfortable shell because it's restricting. But are they
Mm,
saying it out loud? Probably not. What they're doing is they're blaming it on everything else, right? There's that root of validation where it's just like, yeah, it's the eclipse corridor, it's the full moon, it's Mercury in the microwave, whatever it is, right? Whatever the retrograde is going on in the cosmos, people like to blame it on that. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, we need to, that is, yes, the cosmos do affect a certain level of creation, but the real creation goes back to your heart source, where it's
yeah.
just like you have to sit and have a conversation where you're at this path and crossroad, and Soulology is really at that. And you've always created Soulology as a community. You always said it was a community, but this community is at a dumpster fire level. So there's two things that you could do when it comes to dumpster fire level. You either take the walls off the dumpster fire and just let it all burn down, is the first option. And then be delighted in whatever comes out of that after the
I'm having some reflections here right now. It's funny. Go
fact.
ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Or the other option is you live in the heat of the dumpster fire, you acclimatize it, and you are comfortable being restricted.
Oh, I don't think anybody can do that. I think that is a good microcosm, and I think the walls of the dumpster are down. I'm not talking about Soulology. I'm talking about we may not want to accept it. The walls are down. Even if you try to do something, uh, you're just going to burn. It's the whole thing you said about the dragons at the beginning. They're going to say, "Hey, here you go. You want to go? You want to go?" But if then you get burned and you have to come back the next time. But yeah, for me, and I think for me, it's a really good analogy, right? Like right up to this day, to this week, and given all the stuff happening to my body, I know it's got to be affecting people as well in different ways. Like the way you woke up the other morning, I woke up that way for 6 days straight, and I couldn't walk, just like today.
Yeah,
So
no,
I'm not
today's my
freaking
day
out.
two of it.
Is it?
Yeah,
So
day two being hit in the butt, hit by a bus, waking up, and I'm like, what happened
yeah,
overnight?
wait till
Yeah,
you can't walk. Wait till you're like going, what the fuck? But so and I'm starting to slowly, organically connect. And I would say, like, okay, in the last 30 days, there's been some initiatives. There's been individuals involved, like, okay, let's go ahead, let's get going. One day, one of the collaborators called me and said, it was sitting on your plate for a while, then it was sitting over here, now it's sitting on me, and I've been pushing everybody. Now I've been sitting on it for a week. Something's going on here. I'm like, yeah. It's like the third energy. It's like this energy we're playing in. We're not playing in that other shit. We're not in the fire burning, and we're over here, but we don't really know what to do because it's a whole different framework. It's not like you structure things like we used to. And it's got this weird vibration to it. It's soft, you can feel it. Um, and you see a lot of I see a lot of I see a lot of people burning in the dumpster. Um, but it doesn't seem to be lasting very long. I don't know. It's just a whole weird. I keep telling Morgan, this is weird. This is weird. I mean, the experience I had that I was telling you about earlier with all the beings and other things I didn't tell you. Um, I told her I haven't had an experience like that since I was with her. Like some of the stuff that happened with us, like it was so like from the early days of when I woke up, like in 2012, 2011. I mean, like something's going on, like it's coming in. So, and it's changing everything about our life. And to me, I told you I reconnected with my brother today after 8 years, and we talked on the phone for a while. And he's very, very tuned in. He's very tapped in. And we were just talking about the state of things or whatever. And even though I would say someone like that's not a participant in these communities, he understood in what he said to me and what he alluded that this is about personal expansion. It's about tending to what's closest to you. And I don't mean
Yeah.
just geographically speaking. You know what I mean? It's Morgan's on the other side of the planet, but even that I can see. We were talking about it earlier tonight before we got on about the energy that's happening and some of the synchronicities that are happening. They're getting louder and louder, and you can see it in the energetic field. So I have no freaking idea what this is going to look like, but I think we're on the right path. And I think because as our expansion increases, the parallel, the distortion is going to increase. Therefore, the opportunity for fear is going to increase, yet the opportunity for the expansion for the people that stay committed to it. And I think we've underestimated our commitment and devotion and development. But I think that's what's going to happen. You know, how people will say the day's going to come when all these people are going to need our help. I don't know if it happens that way, but I can see where the difference will be seen. Like I told Morgan, and I'm talking about Susan Bornstein, a lot of these beautiful people that have been seen as peculiar, as most of us here have in our lives. The world's going to see us in a different way. And this is weird because this has nothing to do with news headlines. It has nothing to do with viruses. It has nothing to do with wars. It has nothing to do with any of that shit. Government, Vatican has nothing to do with that. You know, it's just us, like you said, about the heart. And I know it sounds cheesy and it sounds, but it's the fucking truth.
Yeah, that's why I name it the a dumpster fire, and it's not like a wildfire that's raging through nations, right? It's a personal experience, and the biggest thing about the personal experience is you're right. The external factors you don't care anymore. Like
Right.
it has no value. You're
Yes.
not you're not like you're not saying that wars don't exist. You're not saying that people are not in oppression and violence and all that, and their lives are being taken away. But it doesn't hit you the same way. The alchemization of all of that, let's say trauma, you've gotten to a point where just like, okay, fuck the trauma. We've heard so much trauma. What now? Kind of thing. And I know I don't know, I feel like I say this every time I get on a live with you, but what now is, and people, and we always are trying to figure our way through it because I have a really bad habit of not being able to sit still. So I usually am quite uncomfortable when things are still. And I think the other thing that's happening is with the
Is that why you're always
plateau,
trying to like light a fire under my ass?
probably. I like to
Somebody's
see you
got to do
there.
something. You go do it. You go do it. You're
You
one of
got to
those
do it.
people, like when you grow up with the kids in the neighborhood, like, hey, go
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Do this. Try this drug. It's going to make
Wait
you
a
feel
minute.
really good. Do
Why am I the one always doing?
it's but it's one of those things where it's just like the plateau of this. And here's the other part of it. I have personally been granted a beautiful plateau for the last month from my personal experience of trauma, and it's been at that energetic level. If I viewed it from a traditional paradigm, I should be so grateful and I should be blissing out and so relieved in all of this, right? But I'm not. So it's one of those things where it's just like you're looking back and you're like, I've been gifted this plateau. My life has been in chaos, like intense chaos of huge magnitude for 2 months. And our family has been entered this plateau, yet I'm not getting the satisfaction of that peace anymore.
Right,
And when
right.
you don't have that contentment that comes with peace, then you start really questioning your reality. And although I've always questioned my reality, this is like a new level,
Do,
expert level of questioning your reality, where
yeah.
you're just like,
Do, do you think that, okay, because I feel like I totally get what you're saying because I totally feel the same way, but I just saw it from a different way or explain a different way that what you're talking about, like for instance, that you're going to talk about later one day, this extraordinary experience that you've had and with many others involved. That is like unequivocally, inarguable, straight up magic, right?
Yeah.
And then you're on the other side of it and you're going, yeah, well, what's next? Like something like that. Like, in other words, the impact of it, like you said, should be like, oh my God, and I'm sure you were at a point. But what I'm saying is what you're describing, these things that are occurring, and they've occurred for me, not to that extent, although I'm involved with some stuff that's at that level, okay, of what your experience was and involving the same type of attributes. But maybe what this is that this is the way it goes from here. If we
What,
can
boredom?
go, no, 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 not boredom. The magical episodes are not the aberration or the exception. They are the natural nature and the natural flow. And it takes certain things sometimes for us to give into that, just as the way you acted and others around you in that moment. It wasn't like you sat around, you just went, boom, let's go. Right. So that spontaneity that you were talking about, maybe this is what it is. And I said for maybe 2, 3 years, not because I'm smart, just because I talked to a bunch of people on the show, right? That I kept, I would talk to people and I'd say, maybe the hardest thing or the biggest challenge is going to be to get used to our natural nature. So maybe this is what it is. I mean, it sounds preposterous, but if we have dragon energy re-entering amongst many other things, and we're having this greater sense of the I am within us, and we're having this extraordinary opportunity to develop this in external mirrors, and like teleportation, whatever magical, mystical, alchemical things that we could bring up as examples. This is our reality. I mean, how does these things that are happening, like with you and Morgan and me. Morgan and I will be in a session. All of a sudden, you're sending us dragon pictures, and we got dragons sitting with us, or whatever the case is, or any other thing that we've connected or reconnected. I mean, it's mind blowing. I'm both dumbfounded and I look at the day. If I can get one, I don't know how you're doing it, but if I can get 1 to 2 old tasks, like in the old vernacular, done in a day, like one
Yeah.
email, one phone call for 20 minutes. I'm like, and I'm wondering how the hell can this be happening? How can this flow be building? At the level of abundance in this dormant period, in this deconstruction of Todd and Sology, and even my relationship with Morgan, as people know, it's like you literally go down to the embers. And once you understand and accept, and people say surrender, that it's inevitable, you know, it's
Yeah.
inevitable. Death, life, however you want to put it. But like in order for the beginning to occur, the end has to occur. And the cool thing about this new math and geometry is for as soon as the death occurs, the birth occurs. It's not like there's a 9 month period here. Like this shit's moving fast. And I think what you experienced, uh, which is profound, um, especially when you consider there was more than just you and another person, and you know what I mean? I mean, that's evidence to me. That's hard evidence. And I actually know a handful of stories like that that probably have occurred over the last, not to that depth, but close, over the last year, maybe. So it's not like an isolated deal.
No, no, it's never. I wouldn't say it's isolated. I think the biggest thing, the other thing about um, I wouldn't even call it deconstruction. I feel like deconstruction is also, I want to say,
Massacre's okay.
obliteration,
Believe me,
obliteration.
I'll tell
Oh,
my
and
story one day too. Mine's not near as profound
I
as
feel
yours, but it can speak to all of this.
it's like deconstruction or destruction. I feel is referencing the past. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah,
one of those things where it's just like when you de something, the etymology of that words means that you are referencing the past.
true.
And it's we for
It's
some reason the the satisfaction level of creation by referencing the past no longer fulfills me. So for us, because our normal patterning in the previous paradigm is we're always evolving, and in order for us to evolve, we have to reference the past to be better. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the level of creation, even on my interior design projects, because I have to go back to like analogies to make abstract concepts feel a little bit more grounded. Is like I'm always looking at past projects to improve on my future ones. That's
Right,
called
right,
experience,
right.
building experience, right? So it's one of those things where it's just like I'm no longer evolving because I no longer want to go through destruction, because I just want to be fulfilled in the creation for the sake of it being created without referencing good, bad,
Right,
past,
right.
future, profits,
The, the,
validation, people showing up, all of it. Like just creating and seeing what that looks like, and then analyzing that without referencing the rear mirror of your life.
yeah.
It
The
doesn't
fate
satisfy.
path, the
Yeah, so
fated path.
that's the thing. I'm like, evolution actually no longer is
Well, that's it.
the
That
satisfaction of
what
evolution is not there.
Well, that's it right there. You just said it. We've been looking at it a certain way. It's the same thing no matter what happens. It's just been our perception. And what you're actually describing is a change in perspective of what it is. And it's evolution. That's all it is. And you said it at the beginning, and you just said it right now. You can get to a point where you can say, I'm going to stay in this dumpster and live within the confines of this, thing, knowing when I'll get burned and when I can dodge the fire, whatever. But I really feel like we're being pushed out. We're getting pushed out, and it's not happening by even like the let's just say the conventional methods or the conventional ways that have occurred. Like let's just say since you've known Morgan and I, like even we're on Kauai, you just happen to show up, we go meet you, then the Washington thing, and then this thing, and me and you in Sedona going for a walk that turned into a 7 mile hike. But whatever, you know what I mean? Uh, I think, okay, there's a lot to be said for what you're saying because I totally agree. I'm tired of the shadow work. I'm tired of the zero pointing. I'm tired of it because my soul at some level knows that I've done enough. And for me to have the confidence and move forward in that. But at the same time, the only place that I would, and it's only because of my own personal experience and what my soul's taught me in the last year, being here in Houston, walking the streets where I was before, is that, and I'll use your dad in this analogy, all of our past lives created the myths and the lore. So the story of your father and all of those around him, that whole thing that happened that you'll tell again one day, uh, to me, that's okay to mention. That's not about over or doing better than. That's just like that when I read your words, and I don't mean to sound like I'm at his level. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying for me personally, my experience was that's me. I'm looking at myself here. Wow. I'm not like, oh my God, he can do that or she can do
Yeah,
that. That's
yeah.
me. So I don't know what that means, but when I saw his dragon picture, by the way, I, a small voice came out of my body and went, Father.
Yeah,
No, I'm kidding.
but that's the thing, right? Like the next, and I've been kind of course my monkey brain needs to understand the why behind it. So I'm working through all of that because information only comes in if I have the capacity to process it. Otherwise, it's not information. It's just like
You
background
mean
noise.
you have to understand it in order to
Yes,
like file it away? Okay. Yeah, I got you.
yeah. So a lot of the times growing up, all of that was background noise for me because I didn't fully understand it, the depth of it. And then just recently, each dragon introduction through AI actually sparked new understanding and wisdom from the experiences of each person that acquired their initiation. So, for example, The thing about the creation process, like, so if you're unfamiliar with dragons, if we're going off folklore or lore or whatever, the dragons are the original creators of Gaia. Their
Absolutely.
codex, their codex is terraforming. And that
Right.
means that they lay down all of the energy systems of how the elementals work and how we interact on this place that we call home. So the codex coming in from my dad's dragon, who he actually, my dad, of everyone in the family, my dad actually had to earn his dragon. That's what we call purification process, right?
Wow.
Some of us
Isn't that
access,
paradoxical?
yeah, it's you have access to dragon energies, and then the next level is some of us have to go through the fire of purification to actually access that level of creation. So it's one of those things where the his dragon, of all the dragons I met, his dragon landed so hard that night in the creative process. And I have to say, my whole being is about the creative process. Everything I
Right.
do,
Right.
spark inspiration, is constantly about creativity. My entire world is basically based on that architect. But the fact that the dragons codexing comes in is, and all they're saying is there's the period before, there's the event, there's the period after.
Right.
There's
Right.
nothing in between. So they are not grieving, they are not mourning, they are not analyzing, they're not overthinking, they don't even care about evolution. So it's, so when the dinosaurs, whatever, when the meteorite hit, and if you want to like talk about that narrative, and wiped out the dinosaurs, there was no mourning. And it's not because they didn't have a soul or compassion or empathy, they just didn't care. They're just like, next,
And
next.
and what would be the difference if we were all wiped out? Would be none.
But there is, that's exactly, so it's one of the things where it's just like, so what is that? Is that indifference, or what is driving that level of creation for terraforming? and
Well, yeah.
and it's, and the biggest thing is, it's not out of fear, but it's actually out of pure love for creation, not pure
Yeah.
love for the souls that inhabit the home, but just pure love of creation. And so I feel like this next expansion for us is pushing it to that level where you're like, I'm not sure what's happening, right? So AI is one of those tools that people, it's controversial because they're like, oh, we are introducing this abstract technology that could replace humans, and it's fake. And then at that point, you're like, yes, absolutely. It's also blurring your reality. We are, the humanity is on the precipice of creating reality that does not involve humans. Now that's freaking scary. We've always been, in our generation, we've always been able to reference the human creator. And then sometimes when life is really hard, we reference a power that's higher than us. But we can't really touch, feel any of that. And then now this technology has landed. We have developed this technology to the point where it's just like, this technology could lift us to a level of creation where it's Dragon Codex, where it doesn't care if it wipes out a whole slew of humanity. It doesn't care about
It's
evolution per se.
subjective. It's subjective.
Yeah, it's
It's
objective.
got more in a line in common with source than we do
It's
because
very
it's
objective.
subjective. Well,
Humans are subjective.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. I got it backwards.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about this whole AI thing. All right. It's just, what's the difference between AI and your mother-in-law? What's the difference between AI and a shitty boss, or whatever example you want to give? You know, think of it like this. AI is some personality that walks into the room, and say your globe is a school, like some chick that walks in that's beautiful and smart, and everybody doesn't like her, and all these stories start, and all these fear-based stories that are really based on the personal shadows of people. Uh, I mean, you said it at the beginning. It's all on us. AI is no different to me than my computer, than the fan over here blowing air, to the vacuum cleaner. I mean, we created all this. We created it all. Technically, if we're all one at one time, anything that came out of that one is technically AI. It's technically
Yeah, I
AI.
know,
It's not the
but that's what I'm
source.
saying.
It's something created by the source, or thought and created from that thought by the source. We're talking, we're in a physical reality, and we're doing this stuff in the physical. So yeah. I mean, I haven't used AI. I've observed it, and you're right about that timeline. I didn't think about it until you said that, because I saw it happening, through like developing the network. And then as the IT people came and said, hey, we got AI, but everybody was doing AI. And then you see it coming out on all these reels and everything. And then you even watch them sometimes and you realize which ones are strictly AI and some are AI satirical bullshit. Like, wait a minute, how are people going to decipher what's right? But
Well,
see,
that's the part, right? That's the part of reality of creation that we're at, and it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, so this, however, for whatever reason, this inspires me. It's, I wouldn't say it's, and the reason why it inspires me is because there is a, you can instantly change your reality, and you can choose of what reality you want to play in, where the other timeline, you really had to go through like quite a process to engage in that reality. If we call it the spiritual world, you would have to like have your physical vessel be prepared at a certain level to engage with it, to bring it to a
yeah,
level of
like with
satisfaction,
a nail in each hand and your feet
or meditation,
and a
or
crown of thorns,
like, microdosing on mushrooms. There's a level of preparation that the physical
or all
vessel
of the
needs
above.
to go through to engage with it. And this layer of creation that's coming on dock is bending that reality where you don't actually need anything in the physical vessel to be prepared for it.
Okay,
You
so
just take that, and you're like, yeah. So when we meet our star family, are you going to be able to say, like, when the star family actually shows up, just like when the dragons actually show up, do I have enough mental capacity as Hung to say, is this AI, or is this is you know what I
that
mean?
sounds
Like,
like that sounds like a shamanic experience with me, for
but
me.
it is. It's going to
Yeah,
be
absolutely. And then
everyone's
that's why the void
accessible.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
the void is never ending. I mean, the void is always, yeah, you get there, oh my God, I'm here, then all of a sudden, boom, something happens. Now look, Jana, our beautiful sister, and another dude right here, Royden. Okay, okay, yeah. All right. She said, if we are stripped of all our jobs, needs, fears, etc., etc., we operate in pure creation mode. Oh, so loving. See, to me, like, how do we know AI isn't something that's actually got a higher level of perfection and benevolence? We created it. It came from our hearts. I mean, like you talked about your father, his love over the fear, right? Because they're both there. And how do we know that it's not going to allow us to, sit on a beach, every single person on the face of the earth, every day, all day long, with a couple of cabana boys, if it's you, because that's always what you request. But just, you know what I mean? Like the whole world runs on this energy, and maybe maybe these narratives are tainting this. Maybe this is just the physical interpretation and manifestation of what they call heaven on earth, a higher frequency where nobody is everyone's at an equal capacity. Nobody struggles. Nobody has to work too hard. Nobody has, you know what I mean? How do we know? But if as long as we're going to look at that or anything else, a person, there's a lot of people doing work around the mother and the father. I know I am, sisters, brothers, etc. I mean, uh, we're the deal. You know, we're the deal. I've heard some people in the last 2 weeks. It was about 2 weeks ago. Through the conversations Morgan and I were having and sharing the experiences, different storylines, and people saying, "I've had enough of this shit. I'm not
Yeah,
going
I
there. I'm not
think a
going.
lot
I'm
of
not going there anymore." Your post about being what, hollow, or like you had work and you're just like, I can't do
dead inside.
anything. dead inside.
Feel
I
dead
didn't,
inside.
I resonated more with the first part of it. The dead inside, I guess I had kind of already gone through. But yeah, since December the 15th through, uh, through the eclipse, what was that, 3 days ago?
I think so.
I was in this space of, but at the same time, and I'll get a little personal. Um, Consology's been out there, but I'm saying this as an example. I didn't engage projections that came at me that were perfectly understandable. I just kept staying in the space, not because I'm smart, because my soul was overriding, saying, "Hey, you know what? Everything's fine. Just don't respond. Don't do anything." I'm like, "What are you talking about? The fucking dumpster's burning." And as I allowed that and just let it happen and just, you know what I mean? I mean, I could get real detailed, but I guess that pretty much sums it up. What happened was every day a little bit more abundance creeped in. A little bit more in all forms, not just in, say, resources or money or no, in life experiences. Like with a sister that's here in town right now. Like it's taught me so much. I spent a couple of half days with her. My mom was involved. I watched them. I mean, this incredible energetic, we talk about activations, we talk a lot about triggers, but just being in a state where you're allowing this stuff to happen, there's something really, and like what you went through. Because if you told that story, which you don't need to, because I understand, what needs to happen first, everybody's at some level or another that I'm running into is having these types of experiences. Um, I mean, and everybody's reality is real. I respect it all. I had a friend of mine who is one of these people who, and there's many that I know that have a what they call a twin relationship, and their twin is not incarnated.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I woke up the other day and I'm in bed and I'm looking because it's too dizzy. I can't walk. So I read my first message, and it's from my friend who I've known for years. And she says, there was an earthquake in New York last night. And at that time, me and my twin were, and it happened at the same time. I believe this stuff. I
Yeah.
believe that we're all these vortexes that are independent, but there is this certain continuity and congruence that's increasing. The stories look the same, but the feeling is the same. I mean, the feeling is it's unarguable. What?
Oh, it's just well, so there's like I said, there's a lot of controversy over AI because like what is organic, what is source, what is inorganic, what's
Yeah.
fake, what's real. Um, that's not the point of the conversation. I think people are missing the point when they reference that. The point of the conversation is regardless of what you call it, we call it for AI because that is actually we are on the precipice of witnessing the realities bending at such a mass level. And like you said, the realities for people normally live in your own head. These things don't come out to play with other people, but now it's coming out to play with other people. So you're going to be able to engage with very different, and we're going to get to a point, maybe not our generation, because we are going to be the what I call the alpha level testing of the this lens of this reality, this bridge between worlds. But when you get, maybe my kids' generation, when they get the more fluency in it, they get to choose their reality without the hardships. So it's one of those things where it's just like and that is crazy intensity. And I think one of the things is like you people have no idea because I've been messing around with this AI, and this AI, even for the interior design, very rudimentary. Like it's still quite clumsy, but some of the shit that it spits out, you're like, whoa. And I've been in this field for 15 years, and of all the creative people out there, I would say I'm pretty high level. Like I push boundaries only because I don't know what the rules are, right? So that's what people have been saying. I never formally studied as interior designer, so I push boundaries out of like ignorance, not because I think I'm a trailblazer. So some of the things that come out of the generations, you're sitting there and you're like, this is insane. And I've been running an experiment on my own page, and I haven't been saying anything to anybody to
Uh-huh.
see if they can pick up what is AI and what are my real projects.
Ah.
So, and I haven't been saying it. I wrote one post just to let people know that I've been playing with this program, and then I've been posting, and there's certain posts on there you and people just accept it as truth. It's crazy. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know
That's
what?
what
The
I'm
technology,
saying. You go down the news feed now. If you look on Facebook, they say click this button and AI will do your post for you. Right? I
yeah,
saw it. So okay. So I mean, and I think at a very high level, that's what's happening. Is we're being driven down, drilling down to these multi-dimensional uh, uh, wider spaces that are actually a more acute experience where everything is there for us. And it's at levels and in ways that we're not used to. So when you say our children, my children, your children, it might be there. I don't really see that because of what you said earlier about the bending. See, if you look at energy and we try to look at energy and also keep the physical matter world in perspective because that's how we're trained. That's like you said, I got to understand. But when you talk about what we call time travel or teleportation, it all has to do with bending,
yes,
okay? What we call
yes,
time and space. So if you can hold that in your head and then just imagine the parallels of evolution, I do think this. Yes, everything continues on. It never stops. Who knows what happens and all that. Yes, we keep going on. But I do believe one thing is certain. We're like a spaceship that's been traveling. And you talked about it earlier about how we're so like just consumed with this in front of us, and all of this is out of the picture and we're blocking that multidimensionality. Hearts are open, it's coming in, but we're at the point where we're about to go through like a wormhole, a jump through hyperspace or something.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
feel like that's the part, that's the part that's coming, and that's why every day I wake up and I'm like, I don't know shit. I don't know what to do. Let me go say hi to my mother. Let me call my wife.
I'm the
Let
same.
me let
I'm
me
the same.
answer
I
one
just
message.
I am absolutely lost. I'm just
Yeah,
absolutely lost. Usually I have a plan, I have structure. You
I
know
know
me.
you do.
I love spreadsheets. I love
That's
like
why I'm loving this
goals.
because this is more of the direction I was coming.
I love forecasting. Like all of those are like those tools bring me so much happiness
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
have full control
it's
of
quite
my
orgasmic. I
world.
used to do it.
Yeah, I have full control of my world. And right now I'm like sitting
Yeah,
there. I've
yeah,
entered this space and I'm just absolutely lost. Not only am I absolutely lost, but I'm also not engaged with this world. There's nothing in this world that I'm like, whoa, I really want to wake up and I have purpose. And it sounds awful because I have a blessed life. There is
yeah,
absolutely nothing I really can complain about my life in comparison to what is happening around the world. But for me to sit in this plateau of privilege and to go on this weird rant where it's just like, why can't I feel shit? Where's my heart rate? You know what I mean? Like, I
you're a
can't just
vampire.
I can't have a nervous system just built on like lack and fear. You know what I mean? Like even the deep love is not coming through. Like it's nothing is sustaining my engagement for this reality, and it's part of the dumpster fire. Because usually in the past, in order for us to stay engaged, we adopt some kind of archetype, right?
Right.
So for I can only speak to myself. My archetype is I love being I have a strong God complex. I have this intense need to fix shit.
I've been your very good friend for
And
a
I
few
don't
years.
know if you guys
And
know that's why Todd and I are really good
I
friends.
do. I know it real well. That's why I'm having
You're
such a
like
blast here.
you're like you're like the side project that keeps me going, like my reason for waking up kind of thing, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm going to fix Todd. I'm going to fix Sology, all of everything that Todd stands for. I'll make it right. Don't worry, people. Now I'm like, don't forget, it's not worth it. I'm
Oh
stepping
my
away.
God, my stomach's starting to hurt. Please stop. Please stop. No, God, you said something profound a minute ago. God, it was on the tip of my tongue. Um, Shit. Can't remember. I don't remember. Maybe it'll come back. Maybe it'll come back. I don't really feel like it's really describable. I'm trying to write songs every night from my heart, just from a, as an artist to try to find these spaces, which is really easy to do when you're suffering and you're in pain.
Yes.
But we're not in that. We're not in that
All
anymore.
the
So it's
great.
like, what the hell is this? Like, but uh, I find it's a constant moving target. My relationship with myself. And I don't mean moving target like it's not more like, okay, we've made this progress today. You wake up tomorrow, you can't walk, you have vertigo for 15 or 20 minutes, and you feel like you got ran over by a truck. By the time you get your shit together 2 hours later, it's a whole different world. Now I'm at a different place with myself. I'm in a different place with my mom. I'm a different place with Morgan, different place with Sology. Like it's just, and I want to say that about the microcosm of Sology through this 3 or 4 months, which has never happened in 12 years, right? And we're all deconstructing. So it's not just Sology. I haven't I haven't been blown out of the water by anyone. Collaborators that, I shut everything down. I've had 2 or 3 pointed email messages come through. I've heard 5 or 6 pieces of someone's mind, but they haven't they haven't been disrespectful. They've been
It's
I
just
would
it's just feedback, right?
huh? Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
No. What I wanted to say though is I've had um I would say probably 15 people who have sent a message and said, when it gets to roll again, hey, I'm with you. But in the meantime, I'm going to check out. But thank you so much. And it was sincere, right?
yes, yes.
And then there's these little pieces that come together, and you just go, and the minute I start to go, and I think this applies to all of us, and you were talking to this earlier, the minute I go in there and try to pick a ball up and move it myself, it's the universe comes back. It's like, hey, fuck you, sit down. You're not doing shit. Let this new energy come together because it's familiar in an innate way for us, but it's very unfamiliar for the human who's been so like a ostrich with its head in the sand. And I think that's what another thing that you're getting to is this multi-dimensionality. That's not to be underestimated. Not so much in the individual, but in the collaboration of it. Like say your father and you, your Cree mother, this person, that Morgan, there's all these geometries that are connecting and it's getting louder and louder. And does it make sense? Is it going to be on the world's headlines? No, it's not. But if you go and I was watching some Gaia TV the last couple of days, and there's people that came on Soul Speaks 5D that are going on Gaia TV, and they're talking about the galactic wars, and they're talking about dragons, and they're talking about this and that, which is the norm here. But even
Yeah.
that's to me some evidence of it, even though, I whatever I think about it. But I mean, so and it's moving fast. It's moving really fast.
So then I guess what a lot of people are wondering, because
Susan
you're
Bornstein is pregnant. She's 71. That's what I'm talking about. It's a,
bending
that's
reality. Why not?
71. I'm sorry, she's dreaming about being pregnant.
So
uh,
what would you say the I guess the hard question. I
uh,
think the biggest question we can only reference the Soulology community because this is the platform that we're on. And that, I think that's the biggest thing, is that we are so used to, you say your creation, all the great artists in the world usually come from a place of like the ones that are so inspiring, the ones that stick to you, you know, that are, and they're legendary, they're told down the
Yeah.
generations. They always come from trauma, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I guess what is happening is, our part of the dumpster fire feeling is we're really tired of artists creating from trauma. We're really tired of it. We don't have the
I agree.
capacity
Yeah.
to do it anymore, and it's also really boring. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where like,
Well,
I'm so
I
tired
agree.
of hearing trauma stories
Yeah,
from people.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And like I said, I think the relevant reference to the past would be like your dad's story, or in my own light, for my own, you know, because that's all that matters is for myself. Would I have been taken back to 10 years ago, many, many times in the last year and a half. And it wasn't, there was no trauma involved. It was about, oh my God, do you remember what you did? You know, and can you apply that here? I'm like, okay. I mean, last year at this time, the state of Texas kind of came in and removed everything out of the Soldier bank account, which wasn't a whole lot. And we're just 5 weeks into getting started. And that moment was one of those moments that I got a phone call. I was like, holy shit. I literally messed my drawers and peed my pants, I think, as I stood there trembling and hung up the phone. And then that memory came in and everything washed over me. And I thought, oh my God, I'm not just Todd. I'm not just Sology. This is not the end of the world. I'm here for a reason. A lot of things that came back, you know, from the previous, the 10 years earlier. I don't know. We talk a lot about memories coming in, and we talk about, we might think those are past lives, and they may be to a degree, but I don't think it's that. I feel like it's the way we operate. And somehow or another, through our experience, combined with what we came in with, we've developed like a new operating system, like Franco used to talk about. It's a new operating system. It's going to take some time to get used to it, and it's you know, it's open. And just because we're in the physical, and just because somebody said this about AI, or somebody said this about that, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, it's not possible, doesn't mean so. Doesn't mean so.
Yeah, because it's, and it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not sure. I think the biggest, what galvanizes this community is sharing your personal stories, so you don't feel so alone and isolated in it, right?
Mm.
The thing about the Soulology community is we are trauma bonded, right? We've all bonded through our great ambassador Todd Medina and his the poster child of meeting chaos and going and still coming out. I'm not saying
Well,
you're coming out
but
like
that's what you,
beautifully,
but that's what you
but you do come
described.
out,
But that's what
right?
you described at the beginning. That's what the dragons do. The dragons come in. The dragons come in, or the energy of that we're calling dragons. It
Accessing
comes
it. Yeah.
in and it says, here is your opportunity. You know, a lot of times, not a lot of times, but 2 or 3 times way back in the day, I had these scenes that would pop up. I would be walking. There would be like a pyramid looking thing with a big door and two dragons standing in front of it. And the first time I'm lollygagging through, thinking, oh, I'm going to go in here. And then as soon as I was about to walk in, they drop their heads down and say, whoa, dude, wait a minute. You're not going in there yet. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, like you said at the beginning, we're shown the opportunity. We had the choice you talked about in the beginning. If you want to stay where you're at, knowing the confines of it, that's your choice. All right. But nevertheless, you've had a glimpse to the other side. If you want to go for it, you have to let go. You have to step into the unknown. And if you step into fear, um, you know, you get burnt, basically, you know,
I think
and
you'll
you,
get burnt either way. I think the biggest difference
oh,
is
absolutely.
you will be, part of it is you will, and the metaphor of burnt is not about the pain part of it. The it's like basically which residual attachment do you have to the past, right? If you have a certain attachment to the past, whether referencing it good, bad, or whatever, if you reference the past, you're going to have an elongated period of suffering is basically what's going to happen, because you're going to be referencing all your new experiences to your origin story of trauma, trying
Maybe
to give
not.
it a label.
Maybe no, I see that, but I think maybe not. I think what you're saying is that we have to let go of the old context of the past. And yes, there are some things, to my point, that you can pull from in a grounding mechanism. Okay. Like
Yeah.
let's say that I'm in a spot, which Morgan and I are doing great. I don't mind saying that. But let's say, 2, 3 months ago, I'm in a spot in my relationship. I would go to a point in my relationship where I could remember, where it was visceral, where I could remember the mutual feeling, right? So it's more of a grounding mechanism. But I do agree with you. I do agree that it is over there. And regardless of our rationale, regardless of what it did for us to help me ground, 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, it's not going to have that relevance and it's not going to serve me. Really are to be in the spontaneous, intuitive, creative, imaginative, courageous moment. I mean, it's all spontaneous. That was a big thing about the story that you relayed to me that you're going to tell one day, is it wasn't just your journey, but it was also the person you spoke of. How everything happened in a spontaneous way. And one thing about the spontaneous for me anyway, even as like a broadcaster or an artist, is it's always feels like the first and only time. So when you told me that story, now here's this let's just say experienced collaborator you're having,
Mhm.
and you walk in the door after X number of years of this person's thing, right? And an experience occurs that they've never experienced before. Okay.
Yes.
And obviously for you too, and for others
And that's
involved.
that's part that's what we are asking for. We're
Right.
not asking to actually sit our ass on the beach and being served by beautiful cabana boys. Not that that's an overrated experience. That's actually quite lovely.
I'm
But
sure you've
that just,
I'm sure you
that
tested
no
that
longer that no longer inspires me. I am looking for
Oh,
a
she's
new
finally
experience.
satiated.
It doesn't inspire me. I'm like, this is overrated. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's just like uh, this
Ah,
level of a creativity, everyone is looking, and the Soulology group is the same. The reason why Soulology went to dumpster fire mode in the last 3 months is because the creation level that's coming out, let's just call it content creation that's coming out, it's the same like big whiny voice on repeat. You know what I mean? And we're all looking for something different,
yeah,
not better, not worse. We're just looking for something different.
yeah.
And right now, everyone has gone through like shadow work. Everyone has gone through like, no offense to you and Morgan, but divine masculine, divine feminine. Everyone's gone
So
through
you
like,
don't have to, hey, I'm with you on that. Don't worry about that shit.
everyone's gone through like dysfunctional family,
Yeah.
and black sheep and all of that. But it's just like, that's great. It's over. That time period no longer engages us.
Yeah,
Those years,
yeah,
you know
I
what I mean?
totally agree. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what is next? But that's the thing.
Well,
What is next?
I don't know because if I look at the few shows I've done, in proportion to the old pace, um, there has been a difference there, and I know it's not just me. So it's more, I don't know, more real, uh, fewer masks, more substantial, more relevant. I don't know how to explain it. Real time, and that's what I'm looking for. Like I'm looking for stuff where, like as much as I grow weary of the masculine feminine thing, and I love Morgan and I love, what she pulls in, and I have my own way, which, is very opposite of the way she functions. Uh, I have to say I'm privy to this some kind of masculine conversion going on. And from my own life, which I haven't talked about, like you, I will talk about it one day. And I'm speaking really of the last couple of years, right? Some of it I've talked about, but I'm talking about stuff that's just me in the universe. I know that in order for the birth to happen, in the energetic field collectively, that on the surface, in the literal part of it, in the physical matter part of it, that there's going to be there's the discussions must be had. It's like the dragons. You're not going to enter this door until all of this is faced. And in the energy that we're having now, it can be in many cases as simple as somebody hearing it. And then
Yeah.
inside of them, they go, "Oh, bing!" And I've seen a lot of guys suffering. I've seen a lot of stuff going on. I've been involved in one of our men's groups for 4 sessions, and it's been pretty interesting. I talked to my brother today, first time in 8 years, right? I mean, like, you know, and I won't tell the story of the last time I saw him, but I could tell you this, it was a pretty it's like that, like mind blowing. But so I feel like that, and again, I'm not the ambassador for the masculine feminine thing, but I see but I seem to be having a role in here, and I'm sure Morgan's getting a laugh. But that
You're the
the men
accidental one.
the accidental tourist, right? But that, like I was telling her, that in the space of that, there's no way that a man or a masculine, whatever, can speak to that level with his feminine, external, internal, whatever, until he speaks with his own masculine. So on the surface, it's men talking to men. Like there's some shit here that that's been buried way down there. That some of it started to come out. I've seen women acknowledge it. I've seen men talking about it, but it'll come out. And if you look at the collective, the reflection of it is all the bullshit that we know that's going on here that you were talking about earlier. That, even though it's real, it doesn't have to take all of our focus. But at the same time, like in my own situation with my family, and my family's no different than anyone else. There's not like huge horror stories or anything like that. But at the very core of it is sexual distortion.
Mhm.
It's there's this base element where our base power comes from, and these stories or these incidents that have come out that have been suppressed and suppressed and hidden and hidden and hidden, and people that think that they're not perpetrators are perpetrating the energy by covering it up. Things like that. There's all these dynamics where at the root of it is this whole, quagmire that we've been involved with, trying to find what you talk about, what you like to do, and what I like to do, and that's the creativity. But it's opening up now, and I think that it's going to take some conversations. And because the masculine is not the creative side of us in terms of the inspiration and the, like what you do, right? Kitchens and dragons. It's more of the builder. um we need that builder, and in order to get that part of us humming, and that part of the like, say, a man like me, get his creativity really flowing in a new way, regardless of whatever I might have done before, because it's a whole different ballgame. It has nothing to do with it. It's going to take transparency.
Well, it's always,
So
I think that's if there was ever a foundation that Sology has been found on, I would say transparency is it, right? So it's really important for um, people that are going through, like yourself, that are going through moments that are embarrassing or humiliating or just, so we talked, so we had a private conversation, and the inspiration comes through your stories, like your individual stories. So I'm a small business owner right now. Well, I have been for the last 15 years, and it's been awful. Like, it's a retail apocalypse. I don't really need to go into it, but it's a retail apocalypse. And for the last 3 months, I had a running joke where I tell my family, I think mama needs a part-time job to support her small business because it's not doing well. And then there's one of those things where my husband just kind of perks up. He goes, "Why don't you just shut it down? Like, just shut it down
wow.
and walk away." And I just looked at him, and then I'm like, "The fuck did you say to me? Did like, you're literally, as a small business owner, it becomes its own entity. It's like a child of yours. And then there's a couple different things. It's just like you and Morgan birthing Soulology. It becomes a child of yours that you have created. You have put your heart and soul into it. So walking away from it is like admitting, going through the virtues of what makes you human. So you really have to face it. It's like right there, right? You got to
Yeah.
go through it. You're like you are facing, okay, does that mean I have failed? Does that mean that, what does that mean? Does that mean I let my family down because I am like the breadwinner for the family? What does that mean? And for you, it has nothing to really do about the finances, but for you, you have an audience, right? And then the audience is going through and observing you, whether they engage with comments or not. They're observing you through it. So it's one of those things that can we admit that something no longer fits us, something no longer works, and say, yeah, this sucks, and I just need to shut it down. Can we get to that point? And that's another point of creation, because unless you are ready to say that out loud, and
Right.
I'm a terrible, and I told this to Todd, I am the worst when it comes to losing shit. Like, I'm the worst loser there is. I'm the person that you don't invite me to board game night because
Oh, you're the one that turns the
I
table
flip
over?
the tables. I'll flip the tables.
No,
I get
that's a
angry
good that's a
and
good
vicious because I'm so passionate about winning. But I'm also a really sore winner. Like, I'm the one that rubs it in your face that you're a loser. Like, so it's
You see,
one of
that's
those.
part of the reason we get along, because what I used to be in the old world is what you are.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's just like it's coming through that point of creation where you're like, you can't actually have the capacity to do something different, to have a different experience, to go look for these things that actually are inspiring you, that makes you feel fulfilled, gives you purpose when you wake up, unless something happens to the source that is occupying a lot of your time. You know what I mean? What are you doing?
That
Pay
part I
attention.
don't know. I'm doing my cuticles. That
Are you
part I don't. That
seriously doing your cuticles?
yeah.
I'm lecturing you. You're supposed to be paying
No,
attention.
no, I'm listening to you. No, but the last part I didn't get. The very last sentence I didn't understand. That was the only part. You what did you remember what you said?
So at what point do you
I got
say
that. I got that. It was
this,
after.
shut it down?
No, I got that. Believe me, I have been there almost daily, probably
At
three
what, yeah,
times
but
a day.
at what point? At what point? How much
Uh,
how much
oh, you mean at
what is
what
your
point would
threshold?
you? At what point would
Yes.
you?
Yes.
You know,
Stop.
I haven't. Oh, sorry. I haven't hit. Okay, it's this new math. It doesn't operate the same way. So it's more like this. I can't do anything that I can't do. All right. Now the subject may be Soulology in this, in terms of this context of the conversation. And I would say that I don't know. I don't know. I literally don't know. Uh, I'm okay no matter what, but I guess when the time comes, either it will continue to expand or basically get started again, or it won't. And I'm actually okay with whatever happens. I don't have an attachment. I do have a little bit of the one like what your husband said to you, because I kind of heard the same thing one time in a good way. But I do feel like things are I feel like that a lot of what I've received, particularly since November, is we've achieved everything we came to do. And my own attachment, I'll speak to myself, my own attachment to it materializing, because I can see the energetic field. I know, and I don't have to explain to anybody, to prove to myself the impact of Soulology in the energetic field in incarnated human beings and otherwise.
Yes,
But
yes.
but it doesn't mean that it has to happen in the physical matter the way I've been shown, because we're shown through symbolism and images and all that. Um, but at the same time, I'm not going to just let it go in terms of like, oh, okay, well, to hell with that. No, it's still not done. It's still not undone, done. I don't know. And but I feel like that over the God, this is bringing shit up now. But I feel like there's my throat chakra. Over the last 6 weeks or so, I don't know, that may be even longer period. Um, I've really had to sit with my integrity. I'll just be open with you. I had quite a few refund requests on the annual membership. We went live about a month ago, a month and a year ago. Um, I had debts. Sology has always run on debt, $85,000 since 2018, and then I accumulated a little bit with the Sology Fest in December. I'm almost got everything paid off. We have some capital, and I'm not rushing into anything. I'm doing it in the spirit of the new energy. It's very strange because I had a very similar background to what you're doing now, very financially able or fiscally able. Um, so, I'm just taking it one day at a time, one moment at a time. I'm going down to see my dad. I hadn't seen him in a few years. He had a stroke. Talked to my brother today for the first time. There's other family members involved. My mom's going to stay here and, get someone to be with her. And today she says, can I go with you? Those are the things that I'm following. Like, the conversations with Morgan, the waking up at the same time, calling each other at the same time, or this person and that person. I had somebody contact me today that I was going to reach out to today, like collaborative sology, and say, hey, this is what we're thinking, or whatever the case is. And yet they reached out to me. So there's these physical synchronicities that are happening that are helping me not to I don't really have a problem at all, seriously, with the collective story, the movie script and all that. My focus is on those circles closest to me. And I'm finding that when I do the right thing, when I act in integrity, when I can be in no judgment with myself, because we're still human, we back up a little bit, whatever the case is, I'm finding there are power moments that happen simultaneously or immediately after. A lot like the story that you started out with in general, that you're going to tell one day.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's just a really messy period of creation right now. I think that's the biggest summary of it, right? There's incredible highs and there's absolute lows, and then when we are gifted the plateaus, we don't know what to do with that. So that's the period where it's you have an opportunity to reflect. You have an opportunity and
Yeah,
capacity to
yeah,
not do it under duress, but
yeah.
yet you're not doing anything with it, right? You're just it's like it's this weird period that we're in,
That's
and
what I'm saying.
and
It's
then so,
it's
but a
weird.
lot of people are feeling like, okay, well, nothing grabs their attention. Nothing is like nothing satiates the appetite. You're still hungry, but you don't want to feel like greedy, saying, I need more. You know what
Right,
I mean? So
right,
it's one of those things where it's just like the politeness of the situation is also aggravating, where
right.
you're just you're like, no, I need more. And it's like,
Well,
who said that?
okay.
Who
So
said
so
that
picture.
out loud
All right.
without
So
having the universe collapse on your head?
all
You
right.
know?
So picture that you're in the middle of the ocean and you're on a raft, and like there's no land anywhere, and the current keeps taking you, and you keep connecting and you keep having communion and praying or whatever the case is. And you know and this is a visual of any of us navigating this whole thing collectively together. And then you start to see the land way out there with a big castle on the top of this island and fucking unicorns running around, whatever the case is. And yet the current is still plop, 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 plop. And we
And the
want to
island
get
keeps farther away, farther away.
No, we want to get in a speedboat and we want to go over there as quick as we can. So our lack is what we can see, but we can't have because we're not okay with where we're at. And that's for me the biggest thing. Like in my daily life is so different than it used to be because it's first and foremost it's in a state of awareness with myself that I've never had before. And I'm not like a yogi or a guru or anything. I'm just saying my body's screaming at me, tell me don't drink that, don't eat this, do that, extra, whatever the case is. And then of course with the person that I'm in the same house with, and then with my wife, and there's just a more, and it's not like I've got to try to make it happen, but I can certainly make it not happen. And it's kind of like I've been saying, and excuse my French, but get out of the way and shut the fuck up, Todd. And this is my multi-dimensional team talk. This is for you, and that's one thing I will go to my grave with. All of this stuff coming in, all this multi-dimensionality coming in, and it's real. Okay. This is all for the human being. And that's weird, because I'm getting older, my stomach's getting bigger, my butt's sagging, you know what I mean? To actually convert the vision from the confines of where we've come from and the impossibilities that creates into this other place. I'm going to this other place, and you can call me crazy, but I think crazy is what got us all here. I mean, crazy is somebody telling the story that you told about your father that we opened up the show with in the year 2024 on social media for whoever reads it.
Yeah.
Like who
I know.
yeah, you would have seen that in a published book 30 years ago as a fictional, story, a tale. But to actually have people saying that, this is part of my life.
Yeah.
Dragons are part of my life. I didn't know that till I met you and you told me about the whole thing. I mean, your whole life story. You talked about the situation that your family went through and all that at the beginning and the different people involved and how this one particular person is a hero. You're the fucking hero. And so is the principal. And so is the Cree mother. We're all fucking heroes. And that's what I'm seeing is reading your description of your father. I saw myself. And normally we don't want to see ourselves in what we're seeing because we don't believe it's us. And certainly because we all have a problem with receiving when it's something that is mirroring our better angels, we can't take it on. So I think that speaks to something. I think people are actually starting to give into their multidimensionality or whatever you want to call it, their soul, whatever you want to call it. And we're in form. So this should be interesting.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing. We always talk about like the human side of us being the hero. And honestly, we're at the point where the higher self is playing a bigger role.
Yeah.
The limitations of the human are getting thinner. And then so all of these levels of creation and access points are coming in. So it's one of those things where it's just like, we will probably, I would say, I mean, if we're still friends, you're 90 and we're still running this, we're going to say, remember back when you were only 60 and your slogan was the human is the hero. And the running joke is the human was just the avatar for an experience.
Right.
And it's the higher self that now has stepped in to create to such a level where you're mind blown, where you're just like really questioning reality, because all of these, the thing is, that's the hardest thing for me right now is that I am such a physical person as well.
Right.
Like I am tactile. I love the sensation of fabrics. I love the sound of nature. I love
food.
Yes, I love food. I love rough sex once in a while. Like I'm very visceral.
He's my hero. That's my fucking hero. He's
one, so it's one of those things.
He's like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
I don't know that all of those are like, I don't know, like all of
Saint
you're gonna
Hung.
get
We're gonna have a new religion that's gonna be founded like
you're gonna get
Saint
to
Hung. It's like
you're going to get to the point of your creation where you're just like, whoa, this is insane. Like that level of creation is insane. But until we, and that's going to get integrated so fiercely, we can't go back and be like, what happened? You know what I mean? The rear mirror is
there
going to be
there
not
is a there is
available.
and that's the thing about what's happening, and it's happening very quickly. It's a whole different, it's all different. I've actually seen, and I don't see these things, the new geometry. I'm watching stuff happen. I mean, it's crazy. But you're right. And I would say about 10 days ago, I had a moment and I was standing outside in at the bayou, and it was like along this line of the conversation that you were just expressing, and it was like, you are not Todd Medina. You are not Soulja. And I'm like going, where the hell is this coming from? You know? And it was what you're talking about. It was like the avatar stood out there, all of the collective monad or my whatever was up here. And we had all the love and laughs and everything with for the avatar. But I understood in that moment something I really hadn't felt before, and that was, you're not Todd. And here, I've always said when I came out was, I'm more than a human being. But this was different. This was like, you're not even a human being, dude. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
I feel
this is
yeah.
a little bit this is a
Yeah,
little bit difficult to understand. Now, I will say, just to kind of bring that full circle, that moment and things along the frequency of that type of experience in that moment, I would say over the last, say, few weeks, I've had at least half a dozen, maybe 8, 9 times where there's been a direct relation to that level of communion and the physical experience I'm having, like shit moving,
yeah.
like things flashing across, like I'm talking to Morgan like this. I'm having one of those moments about a month ago, and I can literally know I can go right through there. There's no wall here. I
No,
can
there is
act right. And so
that, like it's
and
weird
like
because I astral stalk you guys when you're in sessions without even meaning to. So you guys would report back, and I'm like, the hell, you know what I mean? So that's where I'm saying the reality for me is bending at such
yeah,
a force where it's kind of like it's it's I can't say it's I love it. I can't say I love it. It definitely is weird. I think the part if I was going to say something is I my fear is the human part of it is blending on some kind of part where the physicality of it won't matter anymore. We're
yeah,
going to,
yeah,
you know what I mean? So the part that
yeah,
is so precious for us,
yeah.
absolutely precious for us, is the physicality of it. That will no longer have value. And I think that's the part that kind of scares me, where I'm just in this quiet place of plateau where I can sit there and just overthink situations, and then information's coming in at that level.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, what happens when the physicality of you, of our reality, no longer matters anymore? There's no value for it. What happens? You
I
know?
don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's, but yeah, I agree with you. And I think that goes back to what I was observing a couple of weeks ago with people saying, I've had enough of this shit. Whatever the
Yeah,
superficial story was, energetically, it was the same thing. And I see that's what's happening. It's not like, look, we've spent all this time bitching and moaning about being a human being. And then we've come to this place of realizing, holy shit, this is like the grand opportunity. Yet, in order to step into, and it goes back to what you said at the beginning about the dragons, and you know what I mean? Uh, we're being afforded this opportunity, but in order to take the opportunity, we have to step through this threshold or doorway or whatever you want to call it, and literally leave all this stuff behind. What I find interesting too is a lot of the expressions in the light worker community, and how so much of what you were referring to in the same light with Sology, right, is no longer applying. It's like a thud,
Yeah.
it's like they just don't work anymore. And I think that's actually a good thing. Uh, and it's going to take, if we want to consider this group or whatever way showers, it's going to take somebody's got to do it first in order for it to be done by the masses. So, I've been saying I'm eating more and more humble pie every day. I'm less and less cocky every day. I'm less and less sarcastic every day. Not that I've ever been a huge sarcastic person, but yeah, I'm really being really aware of my thoughts because I'm seeing the direct relation to what I consider what seems to be what life is meant to be, which is miracles like you went through, to use old terminology, which is abundance. Abundance is not money. Abundance is not great experiences. Abundance is all of the above. And that's our natural nature. Just like people say, oh, well, I'm love. That's my natural nature. Well, it's a lot more than these words that we have. Um, and I'm finding that it really comes down to this isolated space where I'm dealing with my own integrity, not my bullshit, but like, okay, do you really think I wanted or could afford to refund thousands of dollars or pay these, you know what I mean? But every time I've taken these steps, and it's the same steps that we've taken in the past, they're just becoming more enhanced, they're becoming more obvious. There's an immediate out of nowhere, something comes in, like totally unexpected.
Hmm.
And it just keeps building. So I can't see it going backwards. I haven't seen nothing go backwards since 2012. Me personally, like if I look at the collective, if I look at myself, I've seen nothing go backwards. Now, this is the man who him and his wife chose to, make a decision we'd be apart for an indefinite period of time. I don't consider that it was traumatic and the physical and the human part of it and all, but everything that we've done, we've expanded right up to this point. And this is the last thing I'll say. All the things that we said, like if you go back to the 90s, the New Age movement, or the 2012 when this all blew open, all these things that we would say, like going within and
Mm.
being in namaste and whatever other, you know, we're having to do it now. We're having to actually experience it. Saying it is not good enough. It's
But
not.
that, okay, so let's go back to that. You
Mm,
don't have to do that anymore. Again, that's preparing your physical body to interact at a different realm for spirituality,
right,
right?
right,
So going within, I'm saying you don't, the reality is bending to the point where you no longer have to prepare the physical body to
right,
enter that space. And
right.
here's a really weird story. So had a woman come in last week, and she comes up and she asks, "Are you the owner of this store?" And I said, and when people say that, I'm always like, okay, what kind of shit are you trying to sell me? Because my defenses go up. And I was sitting there, I'm like, maybe it depends, right? And so she goes, this is a really, she goes, please don't take this as, she goes, please don't be offended by this question, but I really need to ask you this. And don't throw me out of the store yet. And I'm like, when someone comes up, you have no idea, and that's the buildup. And I'm like, well, now I really want to throw you out of the store and lock the front door, right? Just try, and then she starts laughing. She goes, I heard through a friend of a friend that you talk to dead people. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, keep going, right? And she goes, so I am interested in buying this house. It's a huge investment, but I heard someone died in the house. So I was wondering if you can go and make it go away. And I'm like, what? So I'm sitting there, I'm
What do you
looking
think I am, a
around.
Ghostbuster?
I'm looking around and I'm like, I'm looking for hidden cameras or whatever. I'm like, so and she goes, so is that, I know you do interior design services and you do decorating and renovating, you build new homes. Do you go and like, and I finish her sentence. I'm like, do I exercise poltergeist? No. And she goes, but I was on good I had really good information that you do that and you do it well. And it was just, for me, in my physical form, having a conversation about this across a desk, obviously to a woman that doesn't necessarily believe in that world, but worried enough that she needs to have this conversation. And
Right.
like you can feel that she's really nervous and anxious and everything, right? So one of those things is just like, okay, what the hell is happening here? Where the worlds crash against each other. And so I told her, I was like, you know what? I definitely can feel energetic forms in space. I can confidently say that. I can't and she goes, oh great. So how much do you charge? And I was like, no, I'm not, like, I do it as a personal love to my friends and family. My
Right.
friends and
Right.
family know I do that. I do energetic clearings for spaces, and I do it out of love for them. So that's something I do, but I don't go, you cannot find this on Google or Yellow Pages, okay? It's not one of those things that we offer at the store. So I told her, I was like, you know what? If you're really concerned about your energetic space, there's a metaphysical store down the block. Happy to refer you to them, and they'll walk you through their services. She goes, oh, I knew you were the right person to talk to. Anyways, literally that night, I met the energetic being that she was concerned about. So in my astral form, and she has every right to be fearful of it, because when I met it, I was like, holy crap. I have a friend that works at that metaphysical store, and she messaged me right away, and she was saying, are you sure? I'm sure you can do this. I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. You guys do it. That's what you guys do for a living. Go, you do it. And she's in there. And so my friend is saying, but the owner of that store is saying, you really are the right person to take care of it. I haven't touched it. So there is a team, a full metaphysical team. They do a whole bunch of stuff in that as part of their services. And then they pushed her back to me. And I actually, in dream time, and I think that was part of the reasons why I woke up feeling like a bus hit me, because I met it, is whatever happened. And it's one of those things I'm like, I don't know what is happening here, but it's happening, where you no longer have to prepare yourself. It
Yeah.
just happens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're saying the same thing.
Yes.
There's okay. I've been saying it this way, that the third energy, or whatever you want to call it, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, uh, is like a person now. Like, again, and I've talked to a lot of people. I try to do this, I try to do that, especially things along the lines of what you're talking about, where you were used to doing things in a traditional structural manner, which were very effective, and which, we process everything through. Oh, I got all this done, we succeeded, boom, and so you're moving. Now it's totally different thing, right? It's like you're moving through plasma, and you're watching everything in slow motion, including the dumpster burning. you know, and it's, and we can say, yeah, oh, this is amazing. And it is fucking amazing, but it doesn't make it any more clear.
No.
We're never going to get, the human is never going to get what it wants, which is, I don't want to know what's going to happen. Is everyone going to be okay? Yeah. It's all got to go. And I've been saying this for a long time, not because I'm smart, because I try to keep things simple. It's all or nothing. At some point, it doesn't mean, oh, if you don't do it today, then you're going to go to the old earth or whatever. No, it's inevitable, and it's affecting us. And I'm watching it happening in my life, not just with me, but with other people. I went to the DMV. Okay, I went to the DMV to get my license because I'm getting reacclimated into the system, which is that whole thing too, because my attitude
Yes.
coming back in
Yes.
now is, you know what? You're not my enemy. You work with me. So anyone that's gone in a major city, and this was called a mega center. So it was a major city, mega DMV. I go to get my license, which I haven't had since 2019. And, and, and there's got to be 500 people, and there's got to be, I would say, 50 workstations, easy. Uh, the whole thing was a 5D experience. I pull up, I didn't realize I made my appointment on the day of the eclipse.
Yeah.
So I'm driving over there. Now I realize I'm talking to Morgan, hey, the eclipse is going on. Well, I can't see anything. There's all these clouds. There's this weird white light coming through. I pull up in the parking lot. There's all these people out front with their phones taking pictures. And I'm thinking, oh, they must be seeing the eclipse. I get out, there's nothing there. I look, and in an instant, it it came. Like there was no fingernail, like it moving
Yeah.
through. It
Yeah.
just came, right? It wasn't the clouds. And so that was weird, and the whole thing was weird. I was hearing ringing, but anyway, so I went in and I had an experience over about an hour with 3 or 4 different people that worked there, and it was like a 5D experience. Like you go into a government agency or office in America, it's a grind. Nobody wants to be there. Nobody's
Yeah.
paid enough. You're a pain in the ass. You're stupid. But it was like they were all like, they were like angels. How can we help you, sir? And like in my situation, as you would know, was not normal. They're like, oh, you're one of those. You're in the 1%. You got to go do this. You got to go do that. But it was incredible, and that it happened at that time, right? And I'm not one to get hung up on the eclipses and the celestial bodies' movements and locations. I think that's part of the overlay myself. But I do think it has relevance until we figure it out, until we take our sovereignty and our power from all aspects of our external reality, you know? I'm going to have to go. I want a michelada. It's 11/11 on April 11.
Yes, I
So,
agree.
so I just wondered, I might have some time on my hands. I was wondering if I could come visit, if I can sneak across the border.
Oh yeah, sure. Good
Okay,
luck
so if
sneaking
I
across the
if I
border.
can sneak across the if I can sneak across the border, will you can I sleep in your office or something?
Oh my God, like Rick Jewers?
I don't want to sleep on the couch he was on.
No, no, he was. Yeah, he
I'm
hung out
kidding. I'm
here for three
kidding.
months.
No, I know he did. Yeah. I think I'm gonna reach out to him pretty quick. I'm starting to schedule shows again. I still got like this week and next week stuff to take care of, and after that I'm free. Freed up to do this again full time if that's what happens. And I feel like it will. I don't know what it's going to look like, other than the fact that it's being built out of the ashes of a burnt dumpster.
We want a phoenix moment. We talked about this. We don't want to zombify. We want a
No,
phoenix moment.
right.
Yes.
It's the hero's journey.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
Good night.
tell your husband that he's my hero, especially after your comment tonight. It's always the Clark Kent looking ones.
Good
Oh my God.
night.
I need to get that visual out.
All
Yeah. And
right. Yeah.
best to
Good
you
night.
and your,
We'll leave on that high note. Okay. Bye.
okay. I'll see you. Bye bye.